before the first dawn ever broke across existence, before mountains rose, before oceans thundered, before even the whisper of time carved its first line into eternity, there was only chaos. Not a storm, not violence, not sound. Chaos was a vast, trembling stillness, a yawning cosmic void stretching without direction, without memory, without shape or purpose. It was everything and nothing woven together, a silent ocean of unbroken possibility, a place where no god yet dreamed, and no creature yet stirred. There was no sky suspended above this emptiness. There was no earth lying beneath it. There was no up, no down, no then, no later. Only a deep, boundless breath held by the universe itself. In that trembling hush, existence waited, suspended in a state of pure becoming. For ages beyond counting, chaos remained untouched, unbroken, until the first shift rippled through its stillness. A faint shiver, a slow awakening, and from that awakening came Gaia. Not born, not crafted, but arising, the first form, the first being, the very body of the world itself. Her presence filled the void like the first heartbeat in an endless darkness. She was the earth, though earth did not yet exist. A presence of warmth, stability, and promise, emerging gently from chaos' endless womb. No form defined her, no face framed her features. She was the promise of mountains and oceans still to come. She was fertility before life existed. She was the bed on which the world would eventually sleep, the foundation upon which all stories would stand. And as Gaia settled across the void, a second being stirred, Tartarus, the abyss far deeper than chaos itself, a great chasm of darkness and gravity that pulled at the edges of creation. He was not evil nor cruel. He was raw depth, the cosmic pit, the counterpart to Gaia's rising presence. Where she represented form, he embodied descent, the hidden, the buried, the swallowed. Then, between Gaia's steady presence and Tartarus' endless depth, another force emerged, Eros, the first spark of desire. Not the mischievous winged child of later legend, but a primordial force, radiant and ancient. It was Eros who bound existence together, who caused separation to meet, and emptiness to give way to form. Without him, chaos would have remained forever still. With Eros' arrival, creation was no longer passive. The void began to shift. Edges sharpened. Space stretched. Meaning took root. Then came Erebus, the deep shadow that stretched across the unformed cosmos. And Nyx, the night itself, a swirling veil of obsidian mist that rippled through the inky dark. Husband and wife not by choice, but by nature, formed out of the same breath of shadow. They moved like living silhouettes across the emptiness, shaping the first contrast between light and dark. Yet still no sky existed, no horizon, no boundary. Creation remained only a murmuring promise. But the stillness had ended. The first players had entered the stage, and the ancient silence of chaos began to fracture. From the heartbeat of Gaia, from the shadows of Nyx, from the depths of Tartarus, the universe prepared to unfold, and soon, the first gods would rise, born not from flesh, but from the aching need of the cosmos to know itself. The world had begun. From the stillness that followed the rise of Gaia, creation began to stir with new intention. The universe, once shapeless, drifting in the quiet breath of chaos, felt the first tremor of structure forming. Gaia, vast and patient, sensed within herself an ache, a yearning for balance. For though she had risen from the void, she remained alone, a foundation without a roof, a body without a companion. And so, from her endless expanse, another presence emerged. He rose not from the depths below, nor from the shadows of Nyx, but from Gaia herself, Uranus, the sky, a shimmering, celestial giant whose body stretched across the endless void. As he unfurled above her, his vast form glittered with the early dust of stars yet unborn. He was the first horizon, the first boundary, the first moment where above and below became different things. Where Gaia had been rich with promise, steady and fertile, Uranus brought order and enclosure. His presence curved like a dome over her, and together they formed the earliest shape of reality. earth beneath, sky above. Their union was not gentle nor tender. It was cosmic necessity, the universe folding itself into harmony. And from this joining, life, true life, began its ascent. The first children of Gaia and Uranus were the Titans, beings of immense stature and power, each reflecting a primal force of existence. Oceanus, the endless encircling sea. Hyperion, the light of the heavens. Crius, the measure of constellations. Iapetus, the edge of mortality. Ceus, the axis of wisdom. And Thea, radiant vision. They emerged from Gaia like mountains rising, each shaped with purpose, their forms echoing the raw forces they embodied. As each new Titan rose, Gaia felt her strength expand. Creation was thriving, existence unfolding. But Uranus watched with unease, for with every birth, the sky felt the weight beneath him grow. Gaia swelled with life, powerful and fertile beyond limit, and Uranus began to fear the children rising from her depths. The Titans were vast, too vast, and their presence threatened his dominion over the upper reaches of reality. But Gaia had more to give. From another deep stirring within her core came the Cyclopes, one-eyed giants whose single blazing eyes burned like early suns. Brontes, Steripes, and Argesh, masters of lightning, thunder, and celestial flame. Their power crackled with the force that would one day forge weapons capable of shattering heaven itself. Uranus recoiled from them. He saw not their craftsmanship, nor their potential, but their raw, untamed strength. Their blazing eyes terrified him. Their power stirred storms across his vast form. And so, in fear and rejection, Uranus thrust them downward, forced them deep into Gaia's inner dark, burying them in her hidden chambers where the world had yet to take shape. Gaia cried out, not with voice, but with a tremor of sorrow and anger that shook creation's earliest bones. Her children had been torn from her, sealed within depths they had not deserved. But Uranus was not finished. From her depths rose another set of beings, the Centimanes, monstrous giants with 100 hands and 50 heads each. They were creatures of overwhelming might, their bodies carved from the most chaotic forces still echoing through the newborn cosmos. Their power dwarfed even the Cyclopes. And so, out of fear of their might, fear of their potential, fear of the shifting balance, Uranus cast them down as well, forcing them into imprisonment within Gaia's deepest places. This time, Gaia's fury became unmistakable. She felt every tremor of their suffering, every muffled roar, every shiver of their confinement. She had created life to fill the cosmos, not to see it locked away. And in her heart, a seed of rebellion began to take root. The cosmos had found its structure, sky above, earth below. But harmony had already been broken. Uranus ruled with fear. Gaia endured in pain. Their children, half-born, half-shackled, waited in the dark. And soon the universe would feel the first taste of divine conflict. A conflict that would shape destinies for ages. The universe had taken shape, but harmony had been shattered. Gaia, the mother of gods, the foundation of existence, carried a wound deeper than any chasm within her. Her children, born from her own endless body, had been torn away before their first breath of freedom. The Cyclopes, the Centimanes, buried alive in chambers of stone and darkness. Their cries trembled through her like earthquakes, each one a reminder of Uranus' fear and cruelty. The sky had become a tyrant. Uranus stretched endlessly above her, glittering with cold starlight, but beneath that beauty lay a hardness that pressed down like an iron weight. He feared the strength of the children Gaia continued to bear, and with every new birth, he lashed out with greater force. Creation had gained shape, but lost its mercy. Gaia could endure much, but she could not endure injustice. In the silence of her own depths, she began to think, to plan, to sharpen her anger into something stronger than sorrow. She reached deep within herself, into the molten heart where mountains are born, where metal sleeps in veins beneath stone, and from that inner fire she shaped a weapon. It was the first crafted object in existence, a blade not forged by hand, but grown from the earth's own rage. A sickle, curved, jagged, and gleaming with divine purpose. A weapon meant to sever destiny itself. But Gaia could not wield it, and Uranus would not fall by her hand. She needed an agent, one of her children, one brave enough to stand against the sky. So she called the Titans. One by one they rose from the deep corridors of her form. Oceanus with his roaring tides, Hyperion blazing with light, Ceus wrapped in swirling insight, Crius sharp with constellations, Iapetus stern as stone. They stood before her, towering and powerful, yet fearful of opposing Uranus, whose presence overshadowed all. Gaia spoke not with words, but with the tremor of the world. She revealed the sickle. She revealed Uranus' crimes. She revealed the fate awaiting every Titan if the sky's fear continued to rule. Silence followed. None moved. None reached for the blade. Except one. From the back of the gathering stepped Kronos, the youngest Titan. Sharp-eyed, cold-minded, ambitious in ways even the cosmos could not yet understand. He looked upon the sickle and did not see danger. He saw power. He saw the chance to rise above his brothers and reshape the cosmos. Gaia's suffering stirred something within him. Not compassion, but opportunity. And so, Kronos placed his massive hand around the sickle's hilt. A slow smile spread across his face. "I will do it," he said. Not out loud, but in a voice that resonated like cracking stone. "I will bring an end to the rule of the sky." Gaia did not smile. She knew his heart was cold, but cold hearts can still carry out justice. And so, she showed him where Uranus would descend each night, to lie upon her, pressing down with the weight of the heavens, blind to the blades gathering in the shadows. The plan was set, the trap prepared. The universe held its breath, ready for the first act of divine rebellion. Uranus descended unsuspecting, starlight rippling across his vast form as he settled upon Gaia once more. He did not sense Kronos hidden in the darkness. He did not hear the soft scrape of divine metal against stone. Only when the blade flashed did he understand what had come. The sickle struck with a force that split the heavens. A cry exploded across creation, half thunder, half shattering light. The sky reeled backward, torn in a single devastating sweep. Blood, the blood of the cosmos, rained across the earth, forming rivers of divine power. From those drops, future beings would rise, beings of fury and vengeance. Uranus, broken, retreated upward, away from Gaia, away from the Titans, forced into the highest reaches of the heavens. His rule ended in a single night. And Kronos stood triumphant, the sickle dripping with the lifeblood of the sky. A new era had begun, the age of the Titans. But in the shadows of his victory, a prophecy stirred. For Uranus' final curse had already taken root. Silence fell across the newborn world after the fall of Uranus. The heavens, once oppressive, heavy, unbroken, now stretched higher and freer than ever before. The sky retreated into a distant vault, shimmering with the faint glow of newborn stars, while Gaia breathed deeply beneath it, relieved of the crushing weight. It was a new age, an age shaped not by chaos, nor by the cold tyranny of the sky, but by the rule of the youngest Titan, Kronos. He stood upon the world claiming his throne, the sickle still glowing with the last echoes of Uranus' divine essence. And with the sky driven back, the Titans emerged into the open world at last, their colossal forms towering like mountains across Gaia's vast landscape. The universe seemed balanced. For a time, Kronos took his sister Rhea as his queen, and together they ruled the Titans. Under their reign, creation flourished. Rivers carved their paths across Gaia's surface. Mountains rose and valley winds carried the first early echoes of harmony. The world seemed ripe for a golden age. But beneath the surface of this new order, something darker pulsed. For at the moment Uranus fell, bleeding starlight and screaming through the heavens, a curse had torn itself from his final breath. "Just as you have risen against your father, so too shall your own children rise against you." Those words clung to Kronos like a shadow. They grew with him, followed him, hung over every victory. echoed through every corner of the cosmos like the whisper of fate. Kronos had seized power with ambition and precision, but he had not inherited Uranus' fearlessness. Instead, he inherited Uranus' paranoia. The curse became a poison in his thoughts. He looked upon the other titans, each powerful, each capable, and saw rivalries that were not there. He looked upon Gaia, who had once been his ally, and saw only judgment in her silence. And worst of all, he looked at Rhea with suspicion, not love. Yet time moved forward, and the throne demanded heirs. Rhea, luminous and regal, soon carried their first child, a divine spark of future promise. But Kronos did not feel joy. He felt dread. He remembered Uranus falling beneath the sickle. He remembered his own hand striking the blow. He remembered the blood of a father staining the cosmos. He wondered, would his own child remember? Would destiny turn against him? Would prophecy claim its due? When the child was born, Hestia, goddess of hearth and flame, Rhea held her with tenderness. But Kronos approached like a shadow crossing over light. In that moment, driven by terror stronger than reason, Kronos acted. He seized the newborn goddess and swallowed her whole. He believed that by devouring the child, he devoured fate. But fate is not so easily escaped. Rhea cried out in horror, not because Hestia would cease, for gods do not die, but because Kronos had crossed a line deeper than any wound inflicted by Uranus. She saw the madness in him, the fear, the sickness of power taken unjustly. Still, Kronos did not stop. When Demeter was born, he swallowed her. When Hera cried her first divine breath, he swallowed her. When Hades arrived, he swallowed him as well. When Poseidon came into existence, he too was devoured. Each child slipped into the eternal darkness within Kronos, a prison unlike the Cyclopes or the Centimanes. They floated in a void of suspended time, alive but trapped. Rhea's sorrow grew into fury. She was not Gaia. She did not hold the earth beneath her feet nor mountains within her bones. But she carried a mother's fire, and it burned hotter with every child stolen away. Kronos heard only the echo of his father's curse. He would not be overthrown. He would not fall. He would hold power forever. But destiny had already begun its quiet march. Rhea would soon give birth again, and this time her child would not be swallowed. For the prophecy demanded a challenger, and the cosmos was already preparing the one who would bring the Titan's reign to its end. A child who would be hidden, protected, raised in silence until the day he rose in thunder. A child named Zeus. The rule of Kronos stretched across the heavens like a storm that refused to break. His voice echoed from mountain to sea, and the Titans bent to his reign, not out of devotion, but out of fear. For every whisper of prophecy reminded him that his downfall would come not from an enemy, but from his own blood. And so he swallowed every child, every spark of future power, every threat before it could breathe. But destiny is not a chain that even a Titan can break. When Rhea became pregnant once more, something shifted in the fabric of the world. Gaia felt it first, an ancient stirring, a ripple through the roots of existence. This child was different. This child carried a pulse that resonated with the heartbeat of the universe itself. Rhea felt it too. This time she refused to lose her child. She wandered far from Kronos' watchful gaze, seeking refuge where even the sky could not see her. She journeyed across Gaia's vast body, over mountains shaped from her earlier tears, along rivers born from her sorrow. And at last, she reached the island of Crete, a sanctuary untouched by the Titan's fear. There, deep within a hidden cavern veiled by ancient olive trees and guarded by the silent earth, Rhea went into labor. As the world held its breath, the child was born. A newborn wrapped in a glow so soft it seemed forged from dawn itself. A child with a quiet gaze and the faintest echo of thunder curled inside his breath. Zeus, the one fated to rise, the one destined to challenge the order of the cosmos. Rhea cradled him close, her heart full of fierce love and trembling fear. But she knew what had to be done. She could not return with this child. Kronos would sense the power. He would devour him like the others. So she sought help from the oldest power she knew, Gaia. The earth goddess appeared not as a towering force, but as a soft tremor of warmth beneath the cavern floor. She wrapped her presence around the newborn, shielding him from the eyes of prophecy. She whispered guidance to Rhea, revealing a plan of deception that would preserve the child's fate. Rhea returned to Kronos carrying a swaddled infant. Not Zeus, but a stone wrapped in cloth. Her face painted in grief, her voice trembling. She presented the false child to her husband. Kronos, blinded by terror of the prophecy, seized the bundle and swallowed it whole without hesitation. He never noticed the weight, never sensed the deception, never felt the stone within his belly. And far away, in the safety of the cavern, baby Zeus breathed freely. But a child cannot grow in silence. Kronos had ears across the world. Titans, spirits, shadows in mountains and rivers. Anything could betray the secret. So Gaia summoned a band of divine guardians, the Curides, warriors clad in bronze, whose duty was not to fight but to drown out the infant's cries. Whenever Zeus wailed, they clashed their shields together, a thunderous ringing that echoed like storms through the cave. Their rhythmic dance hid the newborn's voice, masking him beneath a cloak of noise. And above them, another guardian watched, a she-goat named Amalthea, whose gentle warmth nourished the child. From her flowing milk came strength, resilience, and the first embers of the power Zeus would one day unleash upon the world. Years passed in the secret heart of Crete. While Kronos ruled the heavens in dread, his son grew, fed by divine milk, trained in silence, guided by the earth herself. Zeus learned to walk beneath the flickering shadows of stalactites. He learned to climb ancient stones shaped by Gaia's breath. He learned to listen to storms rumbling through distant skies, storms stirred by the brothers he had never met, still imprisoned within their father. With every passing year, the young god's spirit sharpened. Thunder whispered to him, wind bowed to him, and the prophecy that Kronos feared, that the father would be overthrown by the sun, tightened its grip on fate. Zeus did not yet know the weight of his destiny, but he knew this: he would not hide forever. The world was waiting, his siblings were waiting, justice was waiting, and the day would come when the sky itself would tremble beneath the rise of the god born in secret. Years passed in secret, and the child hidden from time grew into a young god whose very presence carried the rhythm of storms. Lightning trembled beneath his skin. Winds bent gently toward him. Even the shadows of the cave seemed to shift in respect. Zeus was no longer the quiet infant protected by dancing warriors. He was the storm to come. When the day arrived for him to leave the cave of Crete, the world felt the change. Olive leaves shivered though no wind touched them. Clouds drifted into new formations. Gaia, ancient mother of gods, felt the stir of destiny reawakening. Zeus stepped out from the shadows of the cavern and into the vast sky of the mortal world for the first time. The horizon stretched endlessly before him. The mountains, his grandmother's bones, rose proud and silent. And far above, the vault of the heavens glimmered with a faint, distant presence. Kronos, the Titan king, did not know it yet, but his greatest threat was walking toward him with calm, steady resolve. Zeus' heart, though young, was not blind. He sensed the suffering of his imprisoned siblings: Hestia, Demeter, Hera, Hades, and Poseidon. Their divine essences called to him like muffled voices echoing through eternity. He felt the tension in the air, the injustice embedded in the stone of the world itself. He knew he was born for more than hiding. He traveled across Gaia's vast expanse, guided by whispers of ancient spirits and the gentle hands of divinities who still remembered Uranus' fall. Nymphs, spirits of trees and rivers, bowed their heads as he passed, sensing the power growing within him. But it was Gaia who stood before him once again, not in the form of mountains or tremors, but as a gentle presence that rose from the very soil beneath his feet. And she spoke without sound. "Your time has come. The world needs balance. Your father's reign has cracked the harmony of creation." Then she showed him a vision of Kronos, paranoid and suspicious, guarding his throne with the desperation of a tyrant fearing shadows. Zeus saw it clearly. His father was already falling apart under the weight of his own fear. Gaia placed a blessing upon the young god. The earth itself would shield him, guide him, and strengthen his resolve. But Zeus would need more than blessing. He would need allies. So Gaia sent him to the one deity cunning enough to outmaneuver any titan. To a goddess whose insight cut deeper than any blade. Métis, the Titaness of wisdom and craft. Métis appeared as a shimmering figure of silver and soft blue, her presence cool and calculated. She understood the balance of fate better than any living being. She studied Zeus with eyes that saw not what he was, but what he would become. "You seek to challenge Kronos," she said, "but you cannot match him yet. Not in strength. Not alone. You must strike him where he is blind, through his own certainty." She explained that Kronos believed he had consumed all threats. He believed his children lived only within the void of his stomach. He believed Zeus had never been born. This arrogance would be his undoing. Métis devised a potion, an elixir crafted from roots older than Titans, mixed with waters drawn from the first rivers Gaia ever formed. It was meant not to harm Kronos, but to force him to purge what he had devoured. Zeus' eyes hardened. His siblings had waited long enough. Under Métis' guidance, Zeus disguised himself as a humble cupbearer and approached Kronos' throne. The Titan king, weary and suspicious, surveyed the young stranger. But he saw nothing. No destiny, no threat, no prophecy, just a servant. Zeus offered him the cup. Kronos drank. First, nothing changed. He leaned back upon his throne, still convinced he ruled the cosmos with an unbreakable grasp. But then a tremor struck him. His golden eyes widened. A violent surge rushed through his immense body. And one by one, the children Kronos had swallowed were forced out, not as infants, but as fully formed gods, their powers radiating across the heavens like reborn stars. Hestia emerged in a burst of flame, Demeter in a wave of fertile earth, Hera in a cascade of celestial light, Hades in a shroud of shadow, Poseidon in a roar of crashing waves. They stood gasping on the floor of the Titan's hall, reborn into the world they had been denied. Kronos stared in horror. Zeus removed his disguise. The prophecy stared back at him, alive, grown, and burning with destiny. The age of the Titans was about to face its greatest trial. For the brothers and sisters of Zeus stood beside him now, strong, furious, and ready to reclaim the world stolen from them. And in the distance, the earth itself trembled, because war was coming, a war that would split the cosmos in two. The hall of Kronos was silent after the rebirth of the swallowed gods. Silent, except for the trembling breath of the Titan king, and the new, rising heartbeat of destiny echoing through the world. Zeus stood before his father, lightning flickering beneath his skin for the first time. Beside him, his siblings, free at last, felt their power unfurl like ancient wings that had been trapped in darkness for too long. The air around them vibrated with rebirth. But Kronos was still a Titan. His fear transformed into rage. His rage sharpened into hatred. He rose, towering above the reborn gods, his shadow casting the hall into darkness. "You," he growled, his voice shaking the foundations of mountains. "You are the child who defies fate." But Zeus did not flinch. He did not bow. He did not surrender. "For too long," he said, "you have ruled through fear, through violence, through theft of life itself." The words felt ancient, as if the universe had waited ages to hear them spoken. Kronos roared, a sound like thunder ripping through stone, and the world trembled. Zeus knew this was not yet the final battle. He knew his siblings were newly reborn, still gathering strength. He knew that to defeat Kronos, and the Titan army that still ruled the world, they needed allies, real allies. They needed the ones who had been wronged first, the ones buried in the deepest pits of Gaia. So Zeus led his siblings into the underworld of the earth. Not the realm of mortal death, but the cavernous prisons carved by Uranus' cruelty. the hidden chambers where the first victims of tyranny still lingered. Deep below the surface, past rivers of molten stone and chambers older than memory, they found the Cyclopes, their single eyes burning like ancient suns in the darkness. The moment they saw Zeus, they felt the shift. "Son of Kronos," Argesh rumbled, "why do you come?" "Because," Zeus answered, "your freedom was stolen, and the world cannot be whole while slaves remain in darkness." The Cyclopes exchanged glances. For the first time in an age, hope stirred in their blazing eyes. "Release us," Starapes said, "and we will forge weapons that will shake the heavens." Zeus nodded. With a single strike of will, not yet lightning but something close, he shattered their chains. The imprisoned giants rose, stretching ancient limbs that cracked with long-forgotten strength. Their forges, silent since the dawn, ignited once more, flames crawling across stone. Then the Cyclopes forged 3 weapons. 1. The lightning of Zeus, forged from storm clouds, the heartbeat of the sky, and the first spark of creation. A weapon that could tear open mountains, shatter worlds, and command the heavens themselves. 2. The trident of Poseidon, carved from the bones of the deepest ocean and tempered in the breath of underwater volcanoes. A weapon that could summon storms, split seas, and shake the very crust of the earth. 3. The helm of darkness for Hades, forged from the shadows of the deepest abyss and shaped with the silence of the void. A helm that made its wearer unseen, untouchable, and terrifying beyond mortal comprehension. The Olympians held their weapons, and the world felt the shift. But Zeus knew 3 allies were not enough. There were still the Centimines, the 100-handed giants, buried even deeper, abandoned and forgotten by all except Gaia. The gods climbed deeper still, until they reached the chamber where the giants awaited. Massive, motionless shapes of raw, overwhelming power. Zeus stepped forward. "I free you," he said, "and I ask for your strength in the war to come." The giants opened their 50 eyes each, and the earth shook from their awakening. "I refused Uranus once," said Cottus, "and I will not bow to Kronos now." With their release, the earth groaned. The seas trembled. The sky darkened. The Olympians had allies, real allies. The Titans still ruled from Mount Othrys. Their armies were vast. Their hatred was ancient. But Zeus had the lightning. Poseidon had the trident. Hades had the helm. The Cyclopes stood beside them. The Centimines towered behind them, each capable of leveling mountains with a single strike. The young gods climbed back to the surface, now armed with power that even Kronos could not comprehend. The wind shifted across the world. Clouds spiraled into new patterns. Thunder began to speak a language older than speech. The first true storm of the cosmos was rising. Titanomachy had begun, not in a clash of weapons, but in the gathering of forces, and the forging of destiny. A war that would change the shape of the universe was no longer a distant prophecy. It was here. War did not begin with a single strike. It began with a tremor, a low, deep vibration that rippled across Gaia's body, as if the world itself exhaled before the storm. The Olympians stood on one side of creation, armed with the weapons of legend. Zeus with his thunderbolt, light crackling in his fists. Poseidon holding the trident, oceans shifting at his command. Hades shrouded in the helm of darkness, unseen even by gods. His presence felt only as a cold breath drifting through the battlefield. Beside them stood the Cyclopes, their fury forged in ages of imprisonment. And behind them, the Centimines, colossal beings whose 100 arms curled like forests of living stone, each fist capable of splintering mountains. On the other side of the world, atop Mount Othrys, the Titans gathered beneath the banner of Kronos. Their towering forms bristled with ancient strength, earthquakes following their footsteps, storms bending beneath their will. Kronos stood at the center, vast, furious, unbroken, the sickle of Uranus gleaming with cold memory. Time itself seemed to hold its breath, as 2 generations of gods faced each other across a world. that had never known open war. Then the first strike fell. Zeus hurled his thunderbolt, a spear of white fire that ripped open the sky, and crashed into Othries with a roar that split the heavens. The war had begun. Titanomachy. For 10 years, the universe convulsed under the violence. On the first day, Hyperion unleashed fire that scorched the clouds, a solar blaze that clashed with Zeus' storm. Light and lightning collided, turning the sky into a battlefield of blinding radiance. On the second day, Oceanus summoned waves tall as mountains, seas crashing against Gaia's coastlines with enough force to carve new shorelines into existence. Poseidon answered, striking his trident into the sea, splitting the waters and sending tidal forces surging back toward the Titans, with a roar that seemed to echo from the dawn of oceans. On the third day, the Centaurs joined battle, hurling boulders the size of islands, with such force that air itself screamed in their wake. The Titans retaliated with meteoric shards torn from the sky, the world lit by waves of cosmic debris. Hades slipped unseen between both armies, his shadows weaving through the chaos, turning the minds of Titans cold with dread. Where he walked, warmth died and breath froze in the lungs. Day after day, the war escalated. The earth cracked open, vomiting rivers of fire that illuminated the night. Mountains collapsed only to rise again in new forms. The oceans churned, swallowing islands whole. The sky became a battlefield of storms and celestial fire. The world was being rewritten. By every blow, every scream, every clash of divine power. The Titans fought with the arrogance of age, each convinced that no younger god could topple them. Crius unleashed constellations as spears of burning starlight. Iapetus struck with the force of inevitability itself, and Zeus twisted the fabric of knowledge into weapons sharp enough to cut through the minds of lesser beings. But the Olympians fought with something the Titans had never expected: unity. Zeus struck from the air, lightning dancing across his arms like coiled serpents. Poseidon shattered the ground beneath the Titans' feet. Hades broke their formations with terror no warrior could defend against. And the Cyclopes forged new weapons mid-war, their hammers ringing like drums of doom. But it was the Centaurs who turned the tide. Kronos roared, and 100 hands unleashed a hail of boulders that darkened the sky. Gyges tore a mountain peak free and hurled it like a stone. Briareus moved with terrifying speed for a giant of his size, striking down Titans like trees in a storm. With every blow they landed, the Titans felt the inevitability of fate closing in. For the first time, Kronos felt something he had not felt since striking down Uranus: fear. The skies crackled, the oceans trembled, the earth screamed, and through the heart of the storm Zeus rose higher, lightning illuminating his form like the birth of a new sun. He had waited for this moment all his life. His destiny, whispered from birth, now burned in his veins, like fire forged from the first spark of creation. With a roar that shook the cosmos, Zeus summoned the full might of his thunder. Lightning coiled around him like armor, electric storms swirling at his command. He hurled the ultimate bolt, a spear of pure celestial fury, that tore through clouds, light, and air, and struck Kronos with a power that had not existed since the dawn of existence. The world went silent. For the first time in 10 years, the storm paused. Kronos staggered, his body trembling, cracks of golden light splitting across his skin. The Titan King fell to his knees, and the war, after a decade of carnage, had finally turned. The battlefield was silent for a breath, a single, trembling moment when the universe seemed unsure whether Kronos would rise again or fall forever. Smoke curled around the broken form of the Titan King. His golden skin flickered like dying starlight. The sickle that once cut down Uranus lay buried in shattered stone. Its gleam dim, its legacy nearly extinguished. Then came the sound, a slow, deep shudder running through the bones of the world. As Kronos tried to stand, a Titan refusing to bow to fate. But fate had already chosen. Zeus descended from the storm above, thunder trailing behind him like a roaring cloak. His feet touched the ground with the weight of destiny, and lightning hummed at his fingertips. Kronos looked up, fury and disbelief trembling in his eyes. "You are nothing but a child," he rasped, his voice still vast, still terrible. Zeus answered with a voice calm as a gathering storm. "I am the future," the Titan king roared, a sound born of old power and broken pride, and charged. The final battle of the old age erupted in a flash of godly fury. Kronos swung with the strength that once split the sky, but Zeus met him head-on. Thunderbolt against sickle, storm against time. The clash sent shockwaves tearing across the land, splitting mountains, pulling rivers from their beds, sending forests toppling like stalks of grass. Poseidon struck from the flank, driving the trident deep into the earth, and sending a tidal surge crashing across Kronos' legs, forcing the Titan to stumble. Hades slipped behind, unseen beneath the helm of darkness, and drove shadows into the Titan's mind, dread so ancient and deep that Kronos faltered for the first time. The Cyclopes rained molten stone from above, hammers blazing like newborn stars, while the Centimanes hurled avalanche after avalanche, with a wrath that had been waiting since their imprisonment. The Titans tried to rally, Hyperion flaring with solar fury, Atlas bracing the heavens on his back to strike with cosmic weight, Iapetus charging with raw inevitability. But the Olympians fought with a unity the Titans had never known. For the first time in existence, the old order faltered, thunder cracked, lightning burned, the ground itself bent under the force of the struggle. And then, Zeus struck the blow that ended an era, a thunderbolt forged in the heart of the storm, and tempered in the fires of rebellion, slammed into Kronos' chest. The shock tore open the sky, sound vanished, light shattered, the world held its breath. Kronos staggered backward, his form crumbling, his power unwinding like frayed threads of gold. And then he fell. The Titan king collapsed with a roar that echoed across the world, like the death cry of an age. The elder Titans, witnessing their leader's fall, dropped to their knees, some in disbelief, others in grief, others simply bowing to fate. The war was over. 10 years of destruction ended in a single blazing moment. But victory did not mean mercy. The Olympians, guided by justice, not cruelty, sentenced the Titans who had fought against them to the deepest reaches of existence. Not death, for Titans could not die, but eternal imprisonment. The Centimanes, once prisoners, became the wardens of the underworld's deepest abyss. And into that abyss, into Tartarus, the pit older than gods, were cast the defeated Titans, bound in heavy chains forged by the Cyclopes, imprisoned behind walls of stone and shadow, watched forever by the hundred-handed giants. The Titans were sealed away. Only Atlas was given a different fate, to stand at the edge of the world, shouldering the sky itself, a living monument to the fall of the old order. As Kronos and his kin vanished into the depths, the storm clouds broke. Light returned. The world was silent again, not with fear, but with anticipation. A new ruler stood at the center of existence. Zeus, the storm-born god, victorious over the Titans, held the fate of the universe in his hands. But the world would not be ruled by one god alone. The age of the Olympians was about to begin. The echoes of war faded slowly, like distant thunder rolling across a quiet horizon. The smoke drifted away. The broken earth began to cool. The sky, once torn by lightning and shadow, returned to its endless, ancient calm. The world had survived the Titanomachy, scarred, reshaped but whole. The age of the Titans had ended, and now the question lingered across creation. Who would guide the new world into its future? Who would shape the order of existence? The answer rose from the heart of the storm. Zeus, the storm-born god, climbed the heights of the world until he reached the peak of a mountain older than memory, a place where the clouds gathered like silver veils, and the air shimmered with divine promise. Mount Olympus, stood untouched by war, untouched by ruin, waiting for a throne worthy of the new age. When Zeus stepped onto its summit, the sky opened, not in fury, but in recognition. Lightning curled around him, not as a weapon, but as a mantle. The heavens accepted him. The earth acknowledged him. The seas trembled in respect, and the universe bowed. But Zeus did not claim the world for himself. He understood what Kronos never could. Power must be shared to preserve harmony. So the three brothers, Zeus, Poseidon, and Hades, gathered atop Olympus to decide the fate of creation. Not through conquest, but through agreement. They cast lots, not to gamble with the world, but to divide it justly, so each would rule where their nature called them. The choice echoed with destiny. Zeus, lord of the sky. The heavens became his domain, the realm of storms, winds, and divine order. From Olympus, he would watch over gods and mortals alike, ensuring balance across creation. Poseidon, lord of the sea. The oceans were given to the one whose trident commanded their depths. He became master of tides, storms, and the restless soul of the waters. His kingdom stretched from sunlit shores to the blackest trenches of the deep. Hades, lord of the underworld. Not cast down, not punished, but entrusted with the realm unseen, the world beneath the earth where mortal souls would journey. The helm of darkness made him master of shadow and destiny. He would rule not with cruelty, but with solemn justice. The three brothers looked out upon the world, a world reborn from fire and chaos, and understood that the age of the Titans was gone. A new age had begun. Around them the younger gods gathered, Hera with her fierce majesty, Demeter with her gentle harvest, Hestia with her eternal flame. From their thrones on Olympus, the new pantheon formed, a family of gods bound by blood and fate, each holding a piece of the world's destiny. Temples would one day rise in their honor. Heroes would be born under their watch. Mortals would whisper their names in prayers and tales. But all of that lay in the future. For now, the world simply breathed, relieved, balanced, whole. The storms calmed, the seas stilled, the deep earth settled, and Zeus, crowned by thunder and sky, stood as the first true king of the gods. From the ruins of an ancient war, Olympus rose as the heart of divine order. The cosmos had found its shape, and the age of mythology, the age of gods, heroes, and legends, had finally begun.